Hello guys, today I will show you how to play the Traxler Counter-attack. The Traxler Counter-attack is a very complicated opening which is also a very attacking opening. One of the most attacking openings is the Traxler Counter-attack, where you have to sacrifice your pieces whenever you need and checkmate the white king. So we start with the very common opening of the Italian game with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, the Italian game. And here there are two moves for black. One is to play h6 and knight f6. These are the two common moves here. The point of h6 is to prevent the knight from coming to g5 to attack the f7 square. And so the h6 move is played at the beginner levels or even the intermediate levels, and the knight f6 move is played in the intermediate and the grandmaster levels. I don't recommend to play knight f6 for beginners because you would face the fried liver attack most often with the move knight to g5 here. So after bishop g4 we are going to see the move knight to f6. Here the most common move for white would be to take attack our f7 pawn with the move knight to g5 to attack our f7 square. Here the main move in this position is to play the move d5 to block this bishop from attacking the f7 square. Now here there are a lot of ways to play as white or as black, but we are not going to cover this in this video. We are going to play bishop to c5. People might say that why would we play bishop to c5 instead of defending this pawn or block this bishop? Well, you will see the point of this move later. As I said, the Traxler is very complicated and attacking opening, so I recommend this for intermediate level players, not the beginner level players. So after this, there are three ways to play as white. One is to take the pawn to fork our queen and the rook, and it can't be taken because of this bishop. So another one is to play bishop takes f7 check, then king moves up, and then bishop can go back. And the third one is to play very safe and play the move castle. You castle the king to the safe square, and then you thread this move, and then you can play safely as black. So, or as white. So as white and as black, after we play bishop c5, the most common move in this position is to take our f7 pawn with the knight, because it forks our queen and rook and also gains a pawn. I am covering this line in this video. So after takes, we are not going to save our queen. Instead, we play the cruel move of bishop takes f2 check. Here white has three moves: king e2, king takes f2, and king f1. King takes f2 is quite obvious because this bishop is free, and now this queen is again attacked. Or he can play the king f1 move, which is actually the best move in this position. But I'm going to show you the king takes f2 move in this video. If you want to make the king f1 move here or king e2, then let me know in the comment section. So after king takes f2, we are not going to save our queen again. Instead, we are going to play another forcing move by taking the pawn on e4 with a check. Here, white king has 6 different ways to go. Here. And I am going to show you the 3 most common moves you will see from white. That are king to g1, king to e1, and king to e3. Now, first, I am going to show you the king e1 variation. This is actually the worst move in this position. So after king e1, we can play queen h4 check. Here, white has 3 legal moves: king to f1, king to e2, and pawn to g3. If the king moves to either f1 or e2, then it would be a mate. King f1 is straightaway mated by queen f2 checkmate, and king e2 move is made by queen f2 check, king d3 is forced, then knight c5 check, then king to c3 is forced, and then queen to d4 is a mate with the knights and the queen here. So the only option for white in this position is to play g3. Now we can take the pawn with our knight. If pawn takes our knight, then queen takes rook, and he has to block with the bishop now, because if you play king e2, also not mentioning to play king to f2 because you will simply lose your queen. So king e2, then we can play knight to d4 and deflect the king from defending the queen. And after king moves, then we can take the queen and later take after if knight takes rook, then we can take the bishop and we are simply up a queen. So after knight takes g3, if pawn doesn't take and plays a normal move like knight takes rook, we can then play knight to e4 and the same the same way to checkmate the white king. Like if f1, king f1, then queen f2 mate. If king e2, then queen f2 check, king to d3, then knight to c5 check, then king to c3, and then queen to d4 mate. So now we are going to see the 2 best moves for white in this position, and that are king to g1 or king to e3. If king to g1, then we can play queen to h4, threatening a mate. Here, white can defend this square by playing either queen e2 or maybe even queen to f1 or queen f3. If queen f3, then we can like queen f3 or e2. we can play knight to d4, threatening the queen, also mentioning that if queen e2, then it's again a threat. So after we threat the queen has to protect this square, also save her, also have to save her. So queen has two logical moves here. I mean white has two logical moves here. Queen to e3, defending this also, and pawn g3. If pawn g3, then we can play uh, uh, if pawn g3, then we can simply take the queen, and pawn can't take because it is a check. And if queen to e3, also mentioning that f1 is also a better move to support this. If queen to e3, then we can fork the queen and rook by playing knight takes c2, and after queen moves, we can simply simply take the rook, and we're up a material. Our king is safe and white's king is exposed, and my thief will not survive that long here. So and if queen to f1, then we can pin this knight by playing rook to f8, pinning this knight to the queen, and it is so unpleasant for white. So now we are going to look at what happens if king moves to e3 here. We can then play queen h4, defending the knight. Here, if pawn to g3 happens, you should play knight takes pawn. You might think, why did we take the pawn with the knight here? Pawn can just take because rook is defended. But if it takes, we can then take the hanging pawn, not taking the bishop right away. Then king has this move or this move. If this move, then queen f4 check. If king here, then uh, a check, and it's so unpleasant for black. Sorry, white. So if king to e2 here, we can play queen g2 check, and it's again unpleasant for white. If the main idea for black is to attack with as many pieces as you can. You can play d5 and bring this bishop also. You can play knight to d4 here with a tempo, and you can play rook to f8 to involve a rook into the action. So all in all, you have to create multiple attacks in one move, in every move. That's why I don't recommend the Traxler counter-attack for a beginner, because you need experience to attack your enemy king, and intermediate level players have their experience, and as beginner I recommend you to play with the computers, play with the engines from the Traxler counter-attack line, and you learn from them. And after you gain as much as possible experiences, then you can play games with your friends or you can play on public to gain some experiences also from the humans. First from the computers or engines, then you can gain some experiences from the humans. Okay, so that was the point of Traxler Counter-attack. If you want to see the King F1 move in the first from here, if you want to see from me the King F1 move, then let me know in this comments. So see you guys in the next video.